This is Rob Carbone, and you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis.
Barrett from shake and bake, hits a three. That's alive in the crowd with Barrett. 5 on the 24. Barrett previously in the air ball. The drive, the land, backs him home. Barrett for three. RJ Barrett from Dallas. Quick trigger three. Gets another triple. Looking for more. Flip of the buzzer. And it's gone. J.R. Smith from way downtown at the buzzer. Novak, good open look. Puts it in. Into Ewing. That'll make the garden.
Gehrig facing a double team, but still was able to hit.
Smith to finish. And the foul. Novak, good open look. Puts it in. Excellent ball move.
Houston ducks under. Got it! With 8 tenths left.
What is going on, guys? This is Rob Carbone coming at you with another episode of BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. You know, we gotta, keep pushing along. It's episode 123. Did I say 122? I don't know. I can't remember. But 123, we're going to keep doing our little prospect, profiling and pick apart some of the lower mid-tier prospects first before we make our way up to the lottery prospects. But we've still got a little bit to go here, before we run out of talent, I guess, and have to go up to the lottery and, talk about the more talented players. Actually, so yeah. Whoa, I hope everybody's doing fucking all right, man. We're still in quarantine, so I understand it's we're all at home right now, not much to do, not much to see. I even went as far as to watching UFC the other night. Never do that. And then today, as I am recording this on a Sunday night, May 17th, I actually watched NASCAR because they made their return tonight. So take that as you will. But yeah, that's, the last time I've watched NASCAR, at least religiously, was back when I was a kid. I knew everything about it, but it's been a while. And I'm so desperate for a live event, a live sporting event. Although, I don't know if you want to call NASCAR a sport, but I would. I just need a live event on TV. And, so I was watching NASCAR with no fans, obviously, in the crowd. But there are still some guys that I remember as a child that are still racing today. So that was pretty cool to see, like the Matt Kenseths of the world and Kevin Harvick and the Busch brothers. I think they're brothers. So yeah, that's what I did that's how I spent my Sunday. I didn't catch The Last Dance because, as I've said, I've got to catch up. I have 3 whole sets to go. So I'm only up to episode 4. I've still got to watch 5 through 10. I know the finale was tonight as I speak. So, as you're watching or listening to this, you probably finished it. Hope it was good. I'm definitely going to finish it this week. I hope that I can start watching the rest tomorrow and work my way there. I heard episode 5 or 6 is very focused on the Knicks, so that'll be fun for me. But yeah, I mean, it's hopefully I can get to it soon, and I really want to see. I heard it was funny. I heard it was entertaining, and very, very informing. Even we've learned some shit that we haven't really up until today. So that's what I've heard. So I got to catch it up. I got to catch up and get my insight there. But as for here on BD4, we are going to keep doing our thing. Tonight's prospect is Markus Howard, who's, kind of kind of a controversial, maybe, prospect. A lot of people really think he's getting overlooked. But then there are people who just don't think he'll do anything because of one reason, because of his size, right? He is a 5'11", 180-pound with a 5'11 wingspan scoring guard out of Marquette. Played there for all 4 seasons of his college career, and he's now 21 years old. So he's very tiny, guys, and that's the big knock here, which we're going to touch on that, as one of his minuses later. We're going to do a usual pros and cons, and talk about why he may or may not be good for the Knicks. But that's who we're going to dive into tonight, guys. We're going to talk about Markus Howard, Marquette scoring guard, and I think that's pretty much it for the intro, right? There's not much else to talk about, outside of this, this COVID-19 shit. I don't know. It's really just killed everything, guys. There's nothing to talk about. It sucks. I want baseball to come back. I'm dying for the Yankees. Obviously, if you don't know, I'm a diehard Yankees fan. If you're here for my Knicks shows, I'm also a diehard Yankees fan. I'll probably put the Yankees above the Knicks. Maybe, they're probably toe-to-toe, though, but it's just because they win. And I need the Yankees back in my life because I need to experience winning, right? Right after I watched the Knicks go 21-40, whatever they did, I needed the Yankees, right? I usually go right from the Knicks to the Yankees. It's a beautiful transition. But now we're on the Knicks, and we're possibly not going to get any Yankees. So this could be a fucking nightmare this summer. If I don't know what I'm going to do without the Yankees. Listening to podcasts, watching reruns, that's all fun, but it gets old, guys. It gets old. I don't know. Let's take a break. All right, let's. I don't want to go too long. It's really late as I'm recording this. It's technically not Sunday night anymore. That's how late it is. It's 12:53 in the morning on a Monday morning. So, goes to show how much I've been doing on quarantine. So I literally have nothing to do. So, I record at late night hours. It's fucking, when you have a house of 4 or 5 loud Italians surrounding you, it's kind of hard to record during the day. I've got my studio, but it's still difficult, being that I'm always needed to do something. But all right, we're gonna head to break. I'm rambling now. We're heading to break, and as soon as we get back, guys, we're gonna pick apart prospect Markus Howard. All right. Hey fellas, really quick, I just want to remind you, in order to subscribe to BD4, to subscribe to my blog, and to follow me on social media, all you have to do is go to my website. That's it. Just go to nysportstalk.wordpress.com/connect. Once again, that is nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Once there, guys, that will display all of my information. Where to subscribe to the podcast, how to subscribe to my blog, and where to follow me on social media. Guys, thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. He's a really prolific scorer, this kid. Averaged over 25 points per game in his junior and senior seasons. Most recently, in his senior season, Markus Howard dropped 28 points per game with 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and he did so on an efficiency line of 42% from the floor, 41% from three-point distance, and 85% from the stripe. Did it on a volume of 19.3 field goal attempts per game, 10.1 three-point attempts per game, and 8.6 free throw attempts per game. So very efficient for the volume, too, that he took his shots at. Averaged 3.4 turnovers and then did all of this through 29 games, 33 minutes a night. Now, over the course of his career, when you combine everything, freshman to senior season, still very productive numbers. He was very consistent, actually technically improved every year. But overall, in his college career, averaged 22, 3 and 3 on 44%, 43%, 88%. Did so on a volume of 15.2 field goal attempts, 7.9 3-point attempts, and 5.3 free throw attempts, turning it over 3.0 times per game across 128 total games, where he averaged 30 minutes. So he is Markus Howard is, I would say he's projected to be late second round, maybe we'll say mid second round to undrafted, possibly, just because of how glaring his weaknesses are, because of that lack of size. But some of the comparisons I've heard a lot of comparisons on Markus Howard. I've heard Isaiah Thomas, the other Isaiah Thomas. To me, that's a little too optimistic, because Isaiah Thomas was very good, at least at his peak with the Celtics. I've heard Trae Young without the playmaking, maybe also a little too optimistic for me. Then I've heard some more likely comparisons. I've heard Monte Ellis light, right? And then I've also heard Carson Edwards, which maybe that's a little too pessimistic. I don't know. It's kind of hard to find a comparison for this kid, but I've heard the Edwards one a few times, and the Monte Ellis one is probably the one I agree with most. A little, like a poor man's Monte Ellis, maybe. So the likely scenario, people have their opinions on this kid. There's a lot of them. But I would say the likely scenario for this kid's NBA future, if he were to be drafted or picked up later, mid to low rotation, maybe some off the bench scoring pop, who would probably be limited to 15 minutes due to his defensive liabilities because of his size. Someone who brings you some instant offense and capable. He might be limited to 15 minutes a night, but he's really capable of scoring a point per minute because of his microwave type, instant offense that he brings. He's a very streaky shooter, so he can, rack up the points in a heartbeat. He'll be able to score you 10 to 15 points in just as many minutes. Just, when he's hot, he can carry the team for a stretch. So he would be a good replacement for someone like Alonzo Trier, who's expected or might leave in the upcoming free agency whenever that starts. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be a starter. Definitely won't be a starter. I don't think he's going to be a six man. I think he'll be somebody who's you're going to have to limit his minutes because of how glaring that weakness is. With that lack of size, just kills him on defense. We'll talk about that again further on. But some of the positives. Let's start with the good sides. The kid's a fucking, like we said, he dropped 28 a game, 25 last year. He's a natural scorer. He's a prolific 3-level scoring guard. Somebody who can shot create exceptionally. I would say he's a shot creating guru, right? We talked about Grant Riller being exceptional off the bounce, and Markus Howard's very much like that as well. He's very good at creating in space. He's an excellent ISO guard because of this. Very polished in the one-on-one situations. He's got a great handle to get where he wants on the floor. Gets to the line a ton. He took a big jump from his freshman to sophomore season when it came to getting to the free throw line. He only averaged 2 free throw attempts per game as a freshman. Went up to 3 as a sophomore. Then he took the big jumps in his junior and senior seasons, going to 8 free throw attempts per game, and then 9 in his senior season. So, and that wasn't a minutes thing either. That was something that he actually improved their free throw rate. He got to the line a ton, and he kept increasing that. So he's good in isolation, but he's also good off the bounce and pick and roll. He utilizes pick and roll very, very efficiently to open up scoring opportunities for himself. Right, he will use his elite ball handling skills to create mismatches. Bigs will be switched on to him because he knows how to use pick and roll, and he'll capitalize on that and make them look silly. So he's a good, crafty ball handler, guys. He's got pretty quick. He's not the most athletic, explosive type of guard, but he still has a very quick first step, a good blow-by move to get to the rim, and again, to generate contact as well. He's got a good touch on his floater when he needs to use that, he'll do it. And a pretty good finisher for somebody of his size. So that's some of the positives in terms of his in terms of his offensive game. But we've also got he doesn't really need a lot of space to hit shots. So, a lot of people like to talk about tough shot maker and a tough shot taker, or vice versa. Tough shot taker and a tough shot maker, right? People say that a lot in the NBA with certain players. Well, that's Markus Howard. Why is this video feed freezing? Fuck. I hate that. I just noticed that. I didn't even notice it was freezing. It does this every night. If you watch the podcast, you'll probably notice, but I usually get it fixed, so I'm going to refresh it really quick. Let's see if we can fix it. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Sorry about that. If you're listening to the podcast, every night we do the video cast, the video starts freezing. The little clip I have in the bottom right. But we're good now. But yes, Markus Howard, very tough shot taker, very tough shot maker. He will convert, over defenders with little spacing in between each other. He'll make the shot late in the shot clock. He could do all those, make those tough baskets. He's a walking bucket, a straight up bucket getter. People also like to throw that term around, walking bucket, right? Maybe if Michael Beasley, I think that's another good comparison. If Michael Beasley was a point guard, was a guard, this is it. Right? Walking bucket. He likes to create off the bounce a lot. And just, he's got a great step back, a good in and out move he likes to use to create space and create separation from defenders. And he makes his shots, man. There's a lot of knock on this kid, but he makes his shots. He's a good shooter, high efficiency, high volume. 55% from 3-point distance as a freshman. Did so on 4.8 attempts per game. Then went to 40%, dropped it to 40% as a sophomore, but still 40%. And that was on an up in attempts, on 8.1 attempts. Junior season, also 40% on 8.8 attempts from 3. Then his senior season, again, 41% on 10.1 attempts. So very good as a 3-point shooter. He's had some very good games individually. This past season, if I can remember, I think he had a 51-point outing against USC where he hit 9 3-pointers. He also had a 38-point outing against Loyola, where he hit Loyola, Maryland, where he hit 7 threes, and then he hit 6 3-pointers against Georgetown, where he dropped 42 on them. So he's had some remarkable, performances against these big schools. And again, altogether, a great 3-point shooter in college. Overall, 43% on just under 8 attempts per game. So he knows how to shoot the ball, and he can shoot from the foul line. So he's not just a one-dimensional shooter. He hits his foul shots. Altogether in school, he was 599 for 679, equaling 88%. On an average, that's 5.3 attempts. So he's a good shooter. He can hit it from everywhere. He's had some big free throw games too, where in 2020, at least this past season, I think there was 11 games he had with 10 plus free throws, and 2 of those games he had at least 15 free throws. One was against Davidson, and then he had 17 free throw attempts twice actually against USC and Providence. So he's had some, James Harden type performances, where he gets to that line and converts at a ridiculous volume. But also a good mid-range guy. We mentioned he's a 3-level scorer, a good all-around shooter. He can hit the mid-range. Doesn't take a lot of them, and we'll get to that as more of a minus. But he can hit the mid-range, especially in transition. When he runs the break, he likes to pull up in the mid-range area. And then, some of the last couple of things I have here as a strength in his game is he has the ability to play off the ball and kind of run through screens. That's there. I want to see him do that a little more, but it's there, I think. When he does so, he's pretty effective cutting and such. And he's also pretty efficient in catch and shoot scenarios as well. You don't shoot 55% in your freshman season from 3-point distance, and do it one-dimensionally. If you're going to shoot that high of a percentage, and really year by year, as we said, over 40%, you're going to do it in all areas. And he can catch and shoot and do it off the bounce. So it's just at a lower volume when he's shooting off the catch. But don't get me wrong, it's very efficient. So. And overall, despite the size, he's small but mighty. Good work ethic, very high motor kid. He wants to succeed. He's going to make you know that he's going to make you work. He's going to make it known he wants to beat you. and that's what I like about him. But again, we're gonna get to his downside, which really, really shies a lot of people away from him, and it's understandable. Honestly, it's very understandable. It's kind of why I'm very iffy on him. Do I really want him on the Knicks as a replacement for someone like Trier or even Dotson? I don't know, because his height, his frame, his slight build is just very concerning. Very tiny. Again, 5'11" frame, 5'11" height, 5'11" wingspan, and a 180-pound weight. So is that, I don't know, that kind of gives the Knicks zero lineup flexibility, right? He's limited to just play the point guard, but he's got a lack of size for a point guard. He's still undersized even as a point guard. It's going to hurt his ability to finish at the rim in traffic and through contact at the NBA level. There's no way he's going to be able to convert, at the rate he was doing in college with that height. He'll be a large liability defensively. Someone who, in college at least, we saw this often, where the opposition would force him into pick and roll scenarios the second he came onto the floor. They would constantly put him into P&R scenarios where he was just constantly mismatched and switched on to the big screener, and that would just abuse him in the paint. He would just get abused by the bigs, constantly in mismatched scenarios defensively, and that hurt his team. He gave up a ton of points that way. And you can't have that in the NBA. That's only going to expand to be even worse. So pretty poor defender, man. And at times he'll get caught ball watching. He'll shade towards the key a lot, and then his guy will be open on the perimeter, will be late on his closeouts because of that. So he's got to work on a lot defensively in order to just be adequate. And even offensively at times, when he's not making his shots, he's tough to watch. He's kind of one of those scorers where he's not the facilitating type. He's not a true point guard. So it's going to hurt his NBA potential given that he's undersized at the point as it is. But he's only allowed to play point because of that size, limiting the flexibility there. So he's not going to impact the game if he's not making his shots. He's very scoring focused, kind of predictable at times, where he doesn't take a ton of mid-range. He's very modernized. So if he's not hitting his shots and they're expecting him to launch threes and he's not hitting them, he's not going to score points, not going to generate efficiency, not really going to bring you much. Just very one-dimensional at times. So it doesn't impact the game in a positive manner. It's kind of a negative impact player when he's not hitting his shots. He had a 40% usage rate this past season, but only averaged 3 assists out of that versus 3.4 turnovers. So very ugly efficiency as a playmaker, just a very erratic shot chucker at times. Like I said, when he's not on, he'll keep shooting. He won't try to dish it out and facilitate. He's just going to keep shooting, and that's going to lead to some reckless performances in the NBA. He was only 46% from 2-point distance in college, and I wrote down a little stat. Of his 29 games this past season, 17 of them were under 50% from 2-point distance. 17 of his 29 games. That's a chunk that's a good chunk of games right there. And even from 3-point distance, I know the percentages are great, but when he's not there, he can be very, very hard to watch and erratic at times. He's had some clunker games from downtown. If I can remember, Maryland, he was 0 for 6 from 3. Butler, he was like fucking 4 for 18. Against Villanova, he was 3 for 12. He had a 4 for 12 against St. John's, New York. And then 5 for 16 or 5 for 15 against DePaul. So he's had some very ugly performances again. So that's the thing here. What is he going to be in the NBA? It's very, the disparity between his floor and ceiling couldn't be further. It's very interesting. But I think the middle ground here, or not the middle ground, I think if he pans out, he will be somebody, like I said, somebody who can come off the bench for about 15 minutes a game, no more or less, and give you 10 plus points. I think that's his ideal scenario, what he should be aiming for, because I don't think he'll get much more than that. Maybe that's just me, but if he does get to that level, I'm all for it. It's just a big ask. It's, do we really want to take our second pick and get somebody this tiny? who has that incredible scoring punch inside of him. We know he can get hot and do it for stretches. But is it worth it when there are so many other complementary pieces that the Knicks can take with their second and third pick this draft? So I don't know if I really would prefer, but if they did take him, let's say they did, I would have to accept it, obviously, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't. Not my first choice. We'll end on that. Not my first choice. But he's very intriguing to me. Very intriguing. But it's that height, man. It just gets me. I hate small players like that. It's just going to be in the back of my mind. But that's my take on Markus Howard. Very intriguing, but very risky. High risk, high reward type of player. There we go. We'll say that. So if you guys think differently, please let me know in the comments. But that's going to be it, guys. Thank you for coming by. Thanks for stopping by on BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Guys, thank you so much. I'm your host, Rob Carbone, and I'm signing out for the night. All right, ciao.